On Saturday, August 28, 2021, the Greenville County Sheriff's Office in South Carolina received an alarming 911 call.
Greenville County 911, what's the location of your emergency?
Okay, the thing is, a fitter was supposed to show up to be with my mom today, and she's in her 80s. Her name is Edna Suttles, and she didn't show up. This is not like her. She shows up like clockwork. So something's wrong.
The sitter being referred to is an 80-year-old woman named Edna Suttles. Even though Edna is retired, she frequently assisted the elderly community in her hometown of Travelers Rest, South Carolina. According to the caller, it was very uncharacteristic of Edna to be absent without giving notice. Law enforcement was immediately dispatched to Edna's residence to check up on her. They knocked at her door several times and looked through her window, but Edna never answered. The only person home was Edna's dog. Considering Edna's age, along with the unusual circumstances, authorities were concerned that Edna may have had some sort of emergency, so they made many efforts to locate her. First, they tried calling her cell phone, but there was no answer. Then, they contacted Edna's family and friends, but they were also unsure where she was. They then contacted multiple hospitals near her home. Each hospital confirmed that Edna was not a patient there. Law enforcement promptly opened a missing persons case and obtained a search warrant for her residence. Inside her home, there was still no sign of Edna. Her purse, shoes, and medication were missing, and her gold Jeep Grand Cherokee was not parked in the driveway. There was also no sign of a forced entry, and nothing suspicious that would indicate foul play. Law enforcement put out a Be on the Lookout, aka a bolo, on Edna's Jeep, and continued to canvass the area near her home. 1 week after issuing the bolo, on September 3, 2021, the vehicle was spotted parked at a Best Western hotel in Travelers Rest. According to the hotel, Edna had not checked in at this location, so police immediately obtained and reviewed the hotel's surveillance footage. Lucky for them, the hotel had a security camera pointed directly at the parking lot. Edna's vehicle can be seen pulling into the parking lot of the hotel, but to the detective's surprise, the person who exited the vehicle was not Edna. Instead, it was a middle-aged man. He can be seen walking around the vehicle, wiping down both the exterior and the interior. He then walks away from the vehicle and out of the camera's view. This behavior sparked significant concerns that this man may have harmed Edna and was attempting to wipe away the evidence. Who is this man? Why does he have Edna's car? And where is Edna? As the detectives worked to answer these questions, they discovered 2 more businesses with cameras that captured both the Jeeps and the mystery man's movements. The first camera was at an antique store that was located right next to Edna's residence, which provided a view of her driveway. The second camera was at a nearby grocery store called Food Lion, starting from Friday, August 27, 2021 at 9:22 a.m. The same man from before can be seen pulling into the Food Lion's parking lot in his silver Chevy Cruze sedan. At 9:30, footage from the business beside Edna's home captured her leaving in her gold Jeep. Edna makes her way to the Food Lion while the mystery man does some shopping, purchasing a 4-pack of strawberry yogurt. By the time he exits the Food Lion at 9:39 a.m., Edna has arrived and is parked close to the entrance of the store. He gestures to her on his way back to his car, as if they know each other. After picking up a small bag from his vehicle, he heads back to Edna's Jeep and the two drive off together. It seems like this man was no stranger and that their meetup at the Food Lion was likely pre-planned. The two then drive back to Edna's residence. Shortly after returning to her house, she placed a call to one of her daughters at around 10:13 a.m. That particular phone call was the last time that Edna's family would hear from her. 3.5 hours later, at around 1:43 p.m., the Jeep is once again captured leaving her driveway and heading in the direction of the Food Lion. At 2:02 p.m., the Jeep can be seen pulling into the Food Lion again, but this time it finds its way to the back of the parking lot, far from any other traffic or surveillance cameras. The unidentified man then steps out of the driver's seat and returns to his Chevy Cruze, which is still near the entrance of the grocery store. He promptly parks his sedan next to the Jeep. Despite the poor visibility of this footage, police believed that they were watching the man transfer Edna's body from the Jeep into the passenger seat of his sedan. At the very least, Edna seemed unconscious, as there was no movement coming from the passenger seat. He then hops back into the Jeep and drives away, arriving at the Best Western parking lot a few minutes later. As seen before, he wipes down the vehicle and then casually walks back to his sedan parked at the Food Lion. He then exits the parking lot toward the North 25 highway, along with what was presumed to be Edna's unconscious body. The collection of video evidence ends there, but thanks to the high-quality footage inside the Food Lion, police were able to create a comprehensive profile of the mystery man, a tall, middle-aged white man with a distinctive birthmark on the left side of his face. In this same footage, the man can be seen using a frequent shopper loyalty card during the strawberry yogurt transaction. Police were able to find this transaction in the store's records to obtain the personal information attached to it. The owner of this loyalty card was 58-year-old Daniel Glenn Prince. Daniel Prince lived in Rutherford County, North Carolina, about 70 miles away from the town of Travelers Rest. He worked as a traveling handyman, but his business model was questionable to say the least. His clientele typically consisted of elderly women. And as you'll find out later, Daniel had a pattern of developing intimate relationships with these customers. Digging into Daniel Prince's records revealed that his criminal history was quite extensive. He had spent 13 years in prison for a kidnapping conviction in the state of Michigan. He was released in 2009 and his parole was terminated 2 years later in 2011. Not only that, but he also had a handful of other convictions, including firearm possession by a convicted felon and battery. Despite Daniel's worrisome past and the comprehensive surveillance footage, authorities were still unable to obtain an arrest warrant for kidnapping or homicide charges. However, after interviewing Edna's inner circle, it was made clear that Daniel would not have had the permission to drive Edna's Jeep. So, detectives were able to obtain an arrest warrant based on grand theft auto. The Jeep was located in the parking lot of the Best Western Hotel, which was in Greenville County, South Carolina. Daniel's residence was located about an hour away in Rutherford County, North Carolina. So, Greenville investigators collaborated with the Rutherford County Sheriff's Office for the remainder of this investigation. The body cam footage you are about to see is from September 9th, 2021, as officers arrive at Daniel's property to make the arrest.
Totally cooperating. Just relax. It's not doing anything. It's not cooperating. All right. Just we good. Stand up on your feet. Right there. Yeah. Walking him back. That's my wife. She's not going to do anything. Yes, sir. Do you mind if I take your hat off for just a second, please? See what you need. All right, there you go. Sir, I will be very cooperative. All right. Let's try that, please. Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you. Mm-hmm. This is like a Hollywood TV big-time takedown or something.
Following his arrest, Daniel was brought to the station for questioning. It became apparent very quickly that Daniel was withholding information.
So you already met my partner, John. Once again, I'm Greg Walter. Okay. Both of us are investigators down in Greenville County.
South Carolina?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I've never been to Greenville, South Carolina in my life.
Okay, fantastic.
I've never been to Greenville, South Carolina in my life.
Okay, fantastic.
I've never been to Greenville, South Carolina in my life.
Okay, fantastic. All right.
Why am I here, sir?
I'll talk to you about August 27th, 2021 this year. Where do you think you were at?
I've been going all over the place. I've been back and forth to Charlotte. I've been down to South Carolina.
Like, where's your jobs in South Carolina taking you?
Actually, I was down to Travelers Rest, but I don't know if it was Friday or Thursday. I know I'd been there earlier that week.
Okay.
Actually, I was down to Travelers Rest, but I don't know if it was Friday or Thursday. I know I'd been there earlier that week.
Okay.
I've never been to Greenville, South Carolina in my life.
Okay, fantastic. But you don't remember which day specifically?
No, it was either Thursday or Friday.
What kind of job were you working on?
I wasn't. This lady had talked to me several times. I'd been down to her house 2 or 3 times. We kind of got to be friends.
Daniel proceeded to describe how he met Edna through his job as a handyman. He had gone to Travelers Rest several times to see what she needed help with, but there was always an excuse as to why she couldn't pay for his services. Basically, it was a waste of Daniel's time and gas money.
The thing is, she's so sweet and so nice, and you want to help her, and she says, you know, if I get work for her, I'll probably get other work.
That's good. I mean, that's great. So you've been down there a couple of times that week?
It could have been 2 times that week. It might have just been once. And can I see my one phone?
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah, 27th of Friday, and that's never ringing a bell?
No, because I have my events marked here and here.
Okay. So you were down there on the 25th?
I think I was down there on the 24th.
Okay. All right, so
why are we...
What you're telling us is that's not you on the 27th? Food Line parking lot, Travelers Rest?
I don't think so.
All right. That's not you.
That's me. Where's that?
Food Line, August 27th, 2021. 9:23.
Okay.
22 seconds. Ringing a bell?
Yep. Yeah.
So what were you doing down there that day?
She wanted me to look at some stuff at her house.
Okay.
And she picked me up at Food Lion because she wanted me with her when she was gonna go meet some guy for God dang it, private investigator.
Okay. Yeah. Tell us about that.
She wanted me to meet her down there.
Okay.
She was nervous because she says, I'm not sure I trust this guy. And she knows I've been in the military. And she says, will you meet me? And I go, yeah. So I went down to Food Lion and she met me. And he didn't show up where we went to next. And she had been trying to get a hold of him. And we went to her house for about 2 hours. And then we went back to Food Lion. And
Daniel would spend half of this interview reiterating the same story, that he was Edna's bodyguard and Edna needed him to protect her when meeting up with a shady private investigator. However, the details of his story contradicted the surveillance footage, so they challenged his lies with more printed screenshots of the video evidence.
What were you driving?
I was driving a blue car.
Okay.
Your wife's car or your car?
My wife's car.
You got a work truck?
No.
Okay. So that's y'all coming down 25, you and her together?
It could be.
Okay. Hey, here's a different angle, but I mean, we've watched this car, right?
Okay.
Here's y'all in the hotel parking lot. Oh, look. You get out. Nobody else gets out.
I told you that.
You're walking around the car.
Yeah.
You wiped the entire car down.
Because I was worried.
You were worried. And there's you getting back into your car and driving away.
Oh, she's with me.
Look, man. Where's Anna? We need to know where Anna is. Her family is desperately looking for her.
She's missing right now.
Yes, Dan, where is Edna?
I don't have a clue. My past from a long time ago, a kidnapping, probably makes this look really stupid. But that's not me.
Not really.
I didn't.
That's what we're saying, man.
I didn't do anything bad. No.
Despite the detective's efforts, Daniel continued to lie and deny any involvement in Edna's disappearance. But that didn't mean that he was on his way home just yet. As this interview was taking place, investigators were actively executing a search warrant on his house. A whopping 22 firearms, some with missing serial numbers, were confiscated from his residence. This led to Daniel being charged with several state firearm violations, including possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, possession of a firearm with an obliterated serial number, 2 counts of possession of an unregistered short-barreled rifle, and 2 counts of possession of a short-barreled rifle with an obliterated serial number. Police also found a North Carolina license, passport, bank statement, debit card, and social security number that belonged to a 66-year-old woman named Nancy Rago. This raised serious red flags. The police feared that Edna might not have been Daniel's only victim. As the search of Daniel's property continued, investigators found more incriminating evidence that validated their suspicions. They uncovered 28 different electronic devices, including several cell phones. Detectives wondered if these devices belonged to Daniel's other victims. With this evidence pointing towards a potential serial killer, the FBI became involved in the investigation. While being held in custody, Daniel was met by FBI Special Agents Justin Newsom and Aaron Carlisle.
Hey, sir, how are you?
Good.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much.
FBI.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All I'm here today is just trying
Help
to
sort things out.
I'll sort things out.
Okay.
Right. And I want to make sure things are everything's looked at that needs to be looked at. And so you're probably one of the better people that can help me figure out what those things are.
Okay.
That's kind of why I'm here. So I'm just going to let you are a very intelligent man. I'll just let you.
I don't know why you say that if I'm sitting here.
Well, actually, some of the smartest people I met before have sat across from me. So, yeah, I don't take anything for granted.
As you can see, the These detectives spent a large portion of this interview easing into the harder questions, showering Daniel with compliments along the way. This is what is referred to as the ego up technique. To put it simply, detectives apply this technique by praising Daniel and the crime at hand, hoping to instill a sense of pride in him. If done correctly, Daniel would then take ownership of the crime and confess. In this case, Daniel was clearly flattered, but this technique was unsuccessful in provoking a confession.
I honestly feel you guys are just trying to find Edna.
I 100%. I want to find it. Like that's
really
that's our goal.
That's all we care about, really, right now.
I do too.
All right, let me ask you this: if you were doing my job, and I ask this all the time to people,
Okay.
if you were doing my job, what would you do to find Edna? Like you know her better than we will ever know her. What would you do to find Edna?
I honestly couldn't answer that for you doing your job any more than you can doing your job, because I don't have a clue what happened.
Just like the last interview, Daniel continued to deny any involvement in Edna's disappearance. They then asked Daniel about Nancy Rago. They learned that Daniel first met Nancy in 2015 through a classified ad that he posted online. Despite Daniel being a married man, he developed a romantic relationship with Nancy while she was living with her mother, Dolores Sellers. Dolores suddenly passed away in November of 2017. According to the autopsy report, Dolores died of natural causes. But detectives felt that something was off, especially after learning that Nancy had disappeared around the same time. Nancy was never reported missing because the family would periodically receive emails or texts from someone claiming to be her. But that person always declined to meet up or speak with anyone any further. According to Daniel, he was listed as having power of attorney over Nancy's bank account, which continued to receive Social Security deposits and had transactions almost every day since she went missing. Authorities theorized that Daniel had kidnapped Nancy, gained access to her finances, and was actively using her debit card. But at this point, that's all this was, a theory. So they wrapped up Daniel's second interview and continued with their investigation. Over the next few days, the electronic devices found at Daniel's home were analyzed. And law enforcement determined that some of these devices belonged to Nancy, Dolores, and Edna. They also found a phone that belonged to a Florida woman named Lee Goodman. Investigators learned that Lee and Daniel had met in September of 2018. Using information from Lee's cell phone, investigators determined that Lee had disappeared within days of meeting Daniel. However, the exact circumstances surrounding her disappearance remained a mystery, as her body was never found. Investigators used Nancy and Lee's disappearances as a means to obtain a second search warrant of Daniel's home. And on September 23, 2021, the search was executed. Investigators found partially full pill bottles prescribed to Nancy. The medications included cyclobenzaprine, tramadol, and lorazepam. They also found a white bag containing various items, including zip ties, a taser, lubricant, and crushed pills in a sandwich bag labeled Ativan. Throughout this investigation, Daniel's wife was in the process of preparing to sell their North Carolina home. Part of this process included enlisting her friends to help tidy up the property. On October 9th, 2021, one of these friends stumbled upon a bee box approximately 75 yards from the home, in an area mostly surrounded by trees. Inside the box was a handful of personal items that seemed related to the ongoing investigation. So, they decided to notify the Rutherford County Sheriff's Office of this discovery. A third search warrant was issued, and the bee box was inspected by authorities. Inside the box was a woman's purse, rope, more zip ties, medication, an empty yogurt container, and keys for a Jeep Grand Cherokee. Beside the box, they found more items, including a shovel, a pickaxe, and straps. Approximately 30 feet away from the box, authorities found an interior vehicle panel along with a black trash bag and a tarp. Inside that black trash bag was various items that belonged to Edna, including a bracelet, earrings, and a pair of shoes. All of these items were sent in for forensic testing. The residue on the walls of the yogurt container came back positive for cyclobenzaprine, tramadol, and lorazepam, the same medications prescribed to Nancy. These substances are known to induce drowsiness, dizziness, and relaxation. They also tested the white plastic bag, which had Edna's DNA on it. They believed that Daniel used this mixture of prescription medication in the yogurt to drug Edna before suffocating her with the plastic bag. The next day, on October 10th, 2021, a police canine trained to detect the odor of human decomposition searched Daniel's property but did not locate any remains. However, the canine detected a strong scent at the location where the vehicle panel, trash bag, and tarp were recovered. On October 13th, 2021, the FBI confronted Daniel yet again, this time armed with a mountain of evidence. To their surprise, Daniel was now ready to cooperate. According to court documents, before the interview began, Daniel said that he wanted to fully disclose his sins and stated that he knew he would likely spend the rest of his life in prison.
There are things that have to happen, and there are things that are going to happen. And I'm a realist, and I have acceptance with this. I would like a little bit of control in how they happen. If you tell them to turn that off, I will talk to you a little more freely.
Finally, the major breakthrough that the detectives had been waiting for. Daniel was now ready to provide detailed information about all 4 women. He said he would only come clean if the camera was turned off and he had an attorney present during the interview. The detectives complied with his demands, but were still able to record with an audio device.
I would have a very frank conversation with you.
If you are comfortable talking to
I'm
me.
incredibly comfortable talking to you.
Okay.
And I feel like I can talk to you one guy to another. I would prefer not to have the death penalty on the table. I think that would be warranted for this degree of contrition and help. And I'm willing to help you with this stuff because I really, truly, it's eating away at me, man. I want it off my conscience.
Before Daniel would reveal the details of his crimes, he requested a plea deal that would spare him from the death penalty and being federally prosecuted for Nancy, Dolores, and Lee's disappearances. After authorities agreed to this plea deal, Daniel proceeded to admit to the murders of all 4 women.
What is the number that I need to go back and just say there's
Number of human beings? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. I know that sounds like there's a lot of bodies here.
When describing his role in Dolores and Nancy's deaths, he said that he hypothetically assisted a close friend with the euthanasia of a family member. He then looked up at the detectives and said, "That is 1 body." The close friend, Nancy, then had feelings of remorse and was apparently going to tell law enforcement. Daniel then said Nancy was the 2nd body. Daniel did not report the death, but instead disposed of the body so he could keep collecting her Social Security benefits. Unexpectedly, Daniel also described another incident in which someone tried to rob him, but the robbery did not work out well for the robber. He stated that after the attempted robbery, he drove to a rural area, disposed of the body, and cleaned up from the incident. While Daniel was clearly keeping things as vague as possible, he did disclose some more specific details about the 4 women's deaths. Dolores Sellers was killed in November of 2017 by a lethal dose of prescription drugs. It is unclear how this was missed in the initial autopsy. Nancy Rago disappeared in November of 2017, but was killed in January of 2018 by a gunshot. Nancy's whereabouts during those 2 months are uncertain. Lee Goodman was killed within the days of meeting Daniel in September of 2018. Her cause of death is unknown. Finally, Edna Suttles was sedated by Daniel with prescription medications and kidnapped from her South Carolina home. He then drove her to his North Carolina home, where he killed her and buried her body in a remote wooded area near his property. The detectives then asked Daniel if he could guide them to the burial site.
Can you just help me get that closure for Edna's family? Do you at least know a good location?
I could give you within 3 feet.
8 months following this interview, on May 16th, 2022, Edna's body was recovered after Daniel was escorted to his property and was able to direct the officers to the exact burial spot. Edna's lifeless body was found lying on her side, still fully clothed, and with her jewelry intact. Despite being buried for 8 months, her body was still in decent condition, and authorities were able to perform a full autopsy. The autopsy confirmed that Edna had been drugged by Nancy's prescription medication mixed in the strawberry yogurt. The cause of death was strangulation. On June 21st, 2022, Daniel Prince pled guilty to kidnapping resulting in death in regard to the disappearance and death of Edna Suttles.
We certainly want to thank y'all for joining us today as we announce an arrest and subsequent plea deal has been reached in connection with the disappearance and death of Edna Suttles. She went missing from Greenville County on August the 27th, of 2021. This investigation uncovered the man responsible, a man who has now been identified as a serial killer residing in Boston, North Carolina, 59-year-old Daniel Glenn Prince.
Due to Daniel's request for a plea deal, he successfully avoided the death penalty. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Daniel Prince will spend the rest of his life in the USP Hazleton Federal Correctional Complex in Preston County, West Virginia, or as its inmates call it, Misery Mountain.
He was a sick-minded individual, dangerous individual. He preyed on the elderly, and he preyed on females.
Now Prince will face the remainder of his life behind bars.
Is being held accountable and cannot commit future acts of violence against innocent women in our community.